I would appreciate when people knock on my door before just walking into my room because you don't know what I'm doing in there. I don't care how young I am, I still deserve the privacy and that boundary.
And like I could feel like uncomfortable talking about smoking because for like I could think of like family members who go through that type of stuff, and it's like it could like really affect like how I'm feeling in a way, and if they were to like overcross that boundaries, then it could like make things worse.
Say one of my friends was like, "Oh, I kind of don't really want to hug," and like didn't kind of elaborate and like really clearly say that that was like a boundary for them, and it was because it made them uncomfortable. Then that could, that could cause me to like worry and come to my own conclusions that maybe they don't like me or maybe they think I'm gross or something.
I feel like to just like communicate and set the boundary because the longer like you're putting off waiting to set the boundary is going to keep on reflecting in how the person is treating you, and if it's an issue it should just be stated. Welcome to season 4 of the Real Love Real Talk podcast. We're glad to have you back. On this season, you can expect conversations led by our young people around various topics within the conversation of teen dating violence awareness and healthy relationship promotion. Some audiences may find this subject matter triggering. We encourage you to reach out to a trusted adult, family member, or friend. You can always find additional resources in our show notes or on our website, thehallsboston.com. Hi, my name is Journey. I am 15 years old and use she, her pronouns. I am in the 10th grade. I am going to pass it off to Jarrell to introduce themselves.
Hi, my name is Jerome. I'm 17 and I'm in the 12th grade, and my pronouns is he, him. I'll pass it over to Marie.
Hi, my name is Marie. I'm 17 years old and I use any pronouns.
All right. So today we'll be talking about the theme of boundaries. So we'll be talking about how boundaries, how we can set them, and how to set them for like for the side for like relationships, and like the difference between relationship boundaries and like friendship boundaries, and how to set a healthy bond with your partner or friend or family members. And I'll be passing on to Marie for the topic.
So the first topic we'll be discussing under the theme of boundaries is defining boundaries and why they're necessary in relationships. I believe that this is an important conversation because I think boundaries are really essential for maintaining relationships and like maintaining the health of relationships. I think that like not having boundaries can kind of build up a lot of animosity that can really destroy a relationship without you even recognizing it. So it's important to recognize boundaries. So for the first question, what are boundaries, do you guys think?
Well, what are boundaries? In my way, as I see boundaries, I see them as a type of like bubble that you have to have to protect like from like a distance. Like how someone should protect your boundaries, like your space, your personal space. So, like if I told this person, "Hey, I don't like when you touch my hair," they would have to respect that because it's your boundary.
Yeah, I agree. I don't feel like there's a set definition of what boundaries are, but I can give you a definition to what boundaries are by telling you what my boundaries are. Like for example, I would appreciate when people knock on my door before just walking into my room because you don't know what I'm doing in there. I don't care how young I am, I still deserve the privacy and that boundary.
Right. My like the way I think of boundaries is just like the parameters of your relationship, like your desired parameters of the relationship, like how far certain people should like be able to go, and basically how you would like people to behave in your relationships. I mean, like not necessarily like rules or anything, but just yeah, parameters. So how do you guys, or how do you think, in general, people can set or establish boundaries? Personally, I feel like it's kind of easier to set boundaries when it's like not necessarily during a conflict, because I think like when it's in a conflict, it can seem sometimes a bit accusatory or like just like I don't know, when tensions are high like that, it can sometimes make introducing something like that a bit more difficult. So I feel like personally, it would just be easier to bring it up when things are calm in the relationship.
For me, I would say like in a way to set boundaries, I would say I feel like when before you get like deep into a relationship, I feel like you should set boundaries so that y'all both can respect each other. So like one person isn't rushing and then you're not rushing. So like you're both like on the same page in a way. So like I feel like if you're having boundaries in a way, you both will have like a strong and like healthy relationship.
I feel like to just like communicate and set the boundary, because the longer like you're putting off waiting to set the boundary is going to keep on reflecting in how the person is treating you, and if it's an issue it should just be stated.
Totally. And the last question is, what is the difference between boundaries and control slash manipulation? This is kind of like a difficult one, I feel like, because because boundaries can really be anything, I feel like. I mean, well, not anything, but boundaries can be like really diverse depending on the kind of relationship and like the kind of person who's setting them. But I think maybe a good like rule of thumb for setting boundaries and like determining whether or not it's too controlling is whether it's like impeding, I guess. Because the point of boundaries, in my opinion, is to be comfortable within your own space and like with other people in it. So I feel like if you're setting boundaries where people have to kind of in their own life change, like, okay, for example, if I were to set a boundary that I didn't like it if you ate pizza, like just in general, that's not really a boundary. I'm just trying to have you not eat pizza. But if it was like, I don't like it when you eat pizza around me because I don't like the smell, then that's, you know, that's more about me and what I'm comfortable with in my life.
Could you repeat the question again, please?
No problem. What's the difference between boundaries and control slash manipulation?
I feel like for boundaries, it's something that you would prefer the other person not to do. In controlling someone, it's like do this, do that. It's what you have to do, and that's not with boundaries.
For me, like I like what you said, Marie. Like in a way, like how I think is also is like if this person doesn't like the topic, or like if I don't like the topic of like of smoking, but then they cross my boundaries of like and they bring up smoking and stuff like that, and like I could feel like uncomfortable talking about smoking because for like I could think of like family members who go through that type of stuff, and it's like it could like really affect like how I'm feeling in a way, and if they were to like overcross that boundaries, then it could like make things worse. So I just feel like having good boundaries and set them like perfectly can make things like better.
I totally agree, and especially with with Journey's point of like it starts to cross a line when it's more demanding. I feel like that's really a good point because the point of boundaries really isn't to like make people act a certain way in general. It's really just about like how they act and what they do around you and when like you're in the situation and like if they aren't willing to if they aren't willing to adhere to those boundaries, then you don't get angry at them because that's like the point of boundaries really again isn't to like control them. It's to make sure that you're comfortable in your interactions with them. And if they're not willing to make you comfortable in your interactions, then the next step isn't to try and force them. It's to just leave really, or I mean, yeah, really leave if they're not willing to adjust for your comfort.
So for topic 2, the topic we'll be discussing under this theme is the difficulty and the nuance in setting boundaries with someone you are close to. I personally believe that this conversation is important because setting boundaries is a cue to how others treat you, and you will go through short-term discomfort but it will end up giving you a long-term healthy relationship that is worth it. So the first question we have is, how do different relationships affect boundaries placed? Friends, partner, loved one.
I think like the energy of the relationship, I guess, can kind of really affect certain boundaries because like the kind of relationship you have sort of affects like how comfortable you are with different people, and boundaries are again like kind of all about comfortability. So like for example, I don't really like when like teachers like touch me on the shoulder or something, because I don't feel like I have, well, for like a lot of my teachers, I'm just not comfortable with that, and I feel like it's like unnecessary for our relationship. But like with friends or family, I love like physical contact. I love hugs and like things of that nature, because it's just a completely different environment in which we're interacting and like the way we're interacting. So yeah.
So different boundaries, like placement, I would say is like I just feel like having boundaries, like I just feel like it just clicks in. Like when you're with your friends, I just feel like the boundaries that you have with them, it's like I like they should know. It's like whether to go overboard or not. It's like, but then like when you're in school, like how Marie said, um, like she doesn't like when the teachers tap her on the shoulder or touch her. I just feel like that's like something that the teachers really shouldn't do. But like I just feel like when you're with your friends, I just feel like you're like more comfortable with it because like you're kind of like your friends, so like like they know whether to go like to do too much or not. So it's like I just feel like the boundaries. I feel like it just automatically like clicks in a way. How like they should like have common sense to know.
For me, I feel like I would expect the same things from all my relationships, but if I'm like feeling uncomfortable in something that like in a romantic relationship. So let's say I'm not really a big hugger in terms of romance, but I can do it platonically. Like I'm more comfortable being touchy with my friends because I know that it's not going to be taken in a romantic way, in a way I'm uncomfortable with. Um, so I can affect it, but I feel like it's still like the same for each one. The second question is, what might stop someone from feeling like they can establish boundaries?
I feel like sometimes with boundaries, a big barrier that can come up is like when other people aren't receptive to those. Because it's like, I mean, it's a lot easier to set boundaries if there's no, like, if you know or think that the person is just going to be like, oh, totally. And I get that. And thank you for letting me know that, because I want to make you as comfortable as possible. You know what I mean? It's a lot harder when you try and set a boundary and someone isn't like receptive, because then you can't go straight back to like the relationship to how it was, because now there's a conflict that needs to be resolved. And either, I mean, the ideal resolutions for that would be either they adhere to your boundary, or you leave the relationship, or maybe in more like complicated situations, because life is complicated. Like maybe there was like an issue with the boundary, like maybe you brought up a boundary that was a bit controlling and you didn't realize, and after talking it through, you could make a more reasonable one. But yeah.
I would say peer pressure would be something that could stop somebody from establishing boundaries because, for example, if you're friends with somebody who smokes and drinks and you don't want that around you, but that's still your friend and you don't want to lose your friend because that's something they do, but you're not comfortable with it.
For me, like what both y'all said, like if I were to have like a friend that does something, like I know that they do something and it's like they're comfortable with it, but I may not be comfortable of what they do. So it's like, um, it would kind of like I'd rather like probably not be near them if they do something that I don't like. So like, cause like I wanna like make sure like I'm good, my boundaries are good. I don't want like what they're doing to like cross my boundaries. Like if they were to like for example, if they were to go to Target or something and like take something and it's like they told me to like put something in my pocket, I feel like that's like peer pressure in a way because like if they keep telling me to, like it would affect my boundary in a way, like my personal space, and like I wouldn't like want to deal with that stuff.
The next question is, how do you set boundaries to protect yourself?
So for me, like if there's like someone that I'm talking to, like if it was a coworker or something, like at a job, and like I know I'm gonna be working with them for like what the rest of the school year or something, and I would like set a boundary with them, like if we were to be friends and like get close to be friends or something like that, and I would set like a boundary with them, like a certain boundary, so like like they don't cross it, I don't cross theirs. Like I don't want to make them feel uncomfortable. I don't want them to make me feel uncomfortable in a way. So, yeah.
I think when it comes to setting boundaries to like protect yourself, well, I mean, there's like different kinds of protecting yourself. If it's like actual, like physical, immediate danger, then I mean, it's important to, well, like, I don't know, the way you bring up the boundary might be like important because maybe being too, I don't know, your tone could affect, like, if it's for your protection, and like, let's say if the person is being aggressive, bring it up in a certain tone. Like, if you know that being argumentative kind of sets them off to be argumentative back, kind of confronting them with your boundary in a more aggressive tone, like, even though, like, it might be, like, you might be totally in your right to do so, you might want to, like, not, just for the sake of, like, you don't want to escalate the situation. In terms of protecting yourself emotionally, I think it's important to really be, like, firm in those boundaries, because that's, like, the whole point of, like, protecting yourself. So that's an important part of, like, is, like, standing by your boundaries to make sure that you're, protected, because if you're not reestablishing those boundaries, then no one else is going to.
I agree with what Marie said. If you're setting boundaries for something that's physical, you definitely want to be more careful and calm because you don't know what that can escalate to. And the same thing with emotional. For me, I feel like if I'm setting boundaries for something that's emotional, I would really just have to be firm again, like what Marie said, because for example, I can have a friend that says really negative stuff, and that could really affect the way I see myself or the way I see things around me. And I feel like that's causing harm, not physical harm, but the emotional and the mental and like that type of harm. And it's still important. So it'll still be, seen the same. The last question is, how do you respectfully set boundaries without damaging relationships?
It's important to, like, display your boundaries in a way that's, like, not attacking them, I feel like, because if it's about, like, preserving the relationship and making sure that there's no, like, animosity, then it's important to, like, because some people are, like, raised in, like, different environments, and, like, maybe they're not as familiar with people being, like, with people, like, setting boundaries with them. So maybe if it's, like, the first time they're ever hearing something like that, it could seem a bit, like, harsh, honestly. Like, if I had never been asked to, like, readjust how I'm behaving in a certain relationship, and then all of a sudden, like, say one of my friends was like, oh, I kind of don't really want to hug, and, like, didn't kind of elaborate and, like, really clearly say that that was, like, a boundary for them, and it was because it made them uncomfortable, then that could cause me to, like, worry and come to my own conclusions that maybe they don't like me, or maybe they think I'm gross or something, which could then affect the relationship and affect how I see the relationship and act in it. It could, like, maybe end the relationship if it was, like, not dealt with. So, yeah.
For me, I would still say my boundary. I would still stand on what I'm saying, but I would just let them know, like, what my intentions are by saying my boundary, just to protect myself, not to ruin a friendship, obviously, or any relationship it is.
I wouldn't want to ruin a relationship or anything like that, but like how Marie said about the friend like being in a different environment, how it could like affect it in a way like if I had a friend who was from like I don't know Switzerland or something like that, and then they're like used to like giving people hugs, like as a greeting or something like that, but or I could be like a person that doesn't like hugs in a way. So if they were to greet me and they wanted a hug, I can be like, no, I don't want a hug. And then like I can set boundaries in a way. So like I can tell them like in a respectful way, of course, because I don't want to hurt their feelings or anything like that. And I can like tell them like a boundary that like we can set and how we can greet each other like in a different way.
As we close off this episode, we have some like golden nugget like takeaways that we want everyone to like think about as the episode closes off and even afterwards, like in your day-to-day life. So the first one is that boundaries are essential for maintaining relationships, as well as boundaries differ from person to person.
Everyone should be able to feel comfortable setting boundaries. If not, that might be a sign that the relationship is abusive or toxic. You also may feel like you are not able to set boundaries for yourself, yet you can abide to the boundaries of others. You can work on feeling more comfortable with expressing your boundaries.
Sometimes people misuse the word boundaries as in selfish and abusive ways. Boundaries are allowed to be changed and evolved.
Thank you for listening, and look out for the next episode of the Real Love, Real Talk podcast. As always, check our show notes for ways to stay in touch with us. Like and subscribe to our podcast wherever you may be joining us, and visit us at thehallsboston.com for more tools and resources.